This lounge isn't for con artists. Get out. The words hit the polished glass walls like a gavel. At 9:42 a.m., inside the marble-floored executive branch of Summit Trust Bank, silence cracked. The manager's voice wasn't low, wasn't discreet. It was loud enough for every client sipping espresso in the private lounge to hear. Eyes turned. A ripple of discomfort passed through the room, but no one spoke. The accusation wasn't just directed at a woman, it was a verdict thrown before evidence. She stood there, framed by morning light spilling through high windows. A black woman in a fitted burnt orange dress, hair tied in a low, deliberate knot. No designer logos, no jewelry but two small gold studs. A tablet case rested in her hand, nothing more. She didn't flinch. She didn't argue. She placed her card on the table, her voice even. "Run my name, that's all you need." But the manager didn't move. He crossed his arms, lips curling with contempt. "We don't run names for people like you." A hush spread thicker. A young man at the far corner raised his phone slightly, thumb hovering over record. An elderly woman clutched her purse tighter. The air felt staged, like a courtroom waiting for the next witness. The woman, calm, unshaken, took a seat. She rested her hands lightly on the table, posture rooted, as if anchored to stone. Every second she stayed quiet, the tension multiplied. She had been here before, not this room, not this morning, but in other rooms, other years. At 23, told her down payment must be borrowed. At 30, asked if her collateral was actually hers. And now, decades later, the same stare, the same tone, like history rehearsed. The manager leaned forward. "Security's already on the way. People like you don't get access to executive services. Not today." Still, she didn't raise her voice. She let silence drag him deeper into his own arrogance. Her fingers tapped once against the tablet, soft, measured, like the countdown of a clock only she could hear. Across the lounge, the young man finally whispered, "Should I record this?" A woman beside him hissed, "Wait, watch, something's happening." And then, almost as if on cue, the bank manager pushed harder, voice sharp. "Fraud doesn't belong here. Walk out or be dragged out." He thought his words defined her. He didn't know that within minutes, hers would define him. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to her. She sat motionless in the chair, every eye in the lounge fixed on her presence. And though no one yet knew her name, the silence already carried it. The manager didn't wait for her to respond. He snatched the black card from the table, holding it like a piece of counterfeit jewelry. "Looks impressive, but anyone can fake one of these." His words weren't for her, they were for the audience. Every client in the lounge was now drafted into his performance. Two junior tellers by the counter exchanged glances, nervous but silent. From her chair, she didn't flinch. She simply folded her hands and said nothing. The restraint was louder than shouting. A younger banker, no more than 25, leaned over the manager's shoulder. His voice was a whisper, but sharp enough to cut. "Her name's in the system. I saw it this morning. VIP tier." The manager's jaw tightened. "You're mistaken. Step back." He didn't lower his voice, he raised it. "This woman is pretending to be a client. She's here to defraud this bank." Gasps moved through the lounge like wind through tall grass. A middle-aged man at the espresso bar shook his head. A young woman by the window murmured, "This feels wrong." And then the manager pushed further. He reached across the table, fingers brushing her tablet. "Hand this over. Evidence." The device slid from her hands under the weight of his grip. It hit the surface with a muted thud, louder in meaning than in sound. A pause rippled through the air. She inhaled slowly, her expression unreadable. Not anger, not fear, something steadier, heavier. "Every second you touch what's mine, you confirm what's already logged." The manager smirked. "Logged? By who?" That was when the first phone lifted higher. A young man in a gray hoodie, seated 2 chairs away, spoke out loud. "I'm filming this. Everyone should see it." The manager spun, red creeping into his face. "Put that down. This is private property." But the phone stayed up. Another client whispered, "No, let him record." And suddenly the room shifted. The accusation wasn't just between a manager and a woman anymore. It was a public trial. Security was called. A clerk's voice crackled over the landline. "Fraud in the lounge. Possible theft. Requesting immediate response." Her eyes narrowed, but her body didn't move. She sat anchored, a calm center in a room unraveling. Then, with a quiet precision, she lifted her phone and spoke 4 words. "Initiate protocol. Log everything." The line on the other end answered fast, steady. "Confirmed." Every word, every face captured. The lounge fell still again, a hush heavier than marble. Clients exchanged uneasy looks, some skeptical, some silently rooting for her. The manager scoffed, still clinging to control. "You think one call changes anything? You're a nobody in a dress pretending to be a client. We'll have you escorted out in minutes." Her gaze lifted slowly to meet his. Her reply was calm, not sharp but final. "You just mistook silence for weakness. That's your first mistake." The sound of shoes on polished marble grew louder. 2 security officers pushed through the glass doors, navy uniforms crisp, radios crackling. Their eyes swept the lounge, then landed on her. The manager pointed like he'd spotted a criminal. "That's her. Detain immediately. She's a fraud." One guard stepped forward, voice clipped and official. "Ma'am, stand up. You're being removed." She didn't move. She stayed seated, posture steady, hands still folded. "You're making a mistake," she said. Not a plea. A statement. The guard reached for her tablet on the table, fingers brushing its edge. He yanked it up and dropped it into a black evidence pouch. The sound of the zipper slicing shut echoed across the room like a verdict. A gasp came from the corner. A young woman clutching her purse whispered, "They can't just take her stuff." The manager shot her a glare. "Stay out of this." The second guard leaned closer, tone edged with warning. "You don't comply, we'll cuff you and escort you out." For the first time, her eyes narrowed. Her voice, though, stayed calm, calmer than theirs. "Touch me, and this bank will bleed consequences you can't imagine." The words landed heavy. The room buzzed with unease. The manager laughed, brittle and sharp. "Threats? That's all you've got? You walked in here with a fake card, a toy tablet, and now you're threatening the people who protect real clients?" From the back, the young banker who'd spoken earlier tried again. "Sir, her account." "Quiet," the manager snapped. "One more word and you're suspended." The guard's hand hovered inches from her shoulder. The whole room stilled. A client near the espresso bar lifted his phone higher. Another muttered, "This is wrong." And then came the breaking point. The manager's voice, louder than before, carrying for every witness. "You don't belong here. You're a con artist parading as a client. This is my bank, not yours." The sentence hit like a slap. Sharp, final, cruel. But she only tilted her head slightly, as though examining a specimen under glass. Her reply was measured, each syllable deliberate. "You just called the owner of this institution a fraud. Write that down. Everyone here just heard it." The room froze. Even the security guards hesitated. Hands caught mid-air. The manager blinked, lips parting as though he hadn't understood what he'd just triggered. Clients shifted in their seats, whispers now audible. "Did she say owner? No way, but what if—" And at the center of it all, she remained seated, still, anchored, watching as the storm she hadn't started began to consume the people who had. The manager's laughter sputtered, uncertain now, but still clinging to arrogance. "Owner, please. If you were anyone important, security would already know. This branch doesn't answer to imposters." His voice tried to sound firm. It only sounded desperate. She lifted her phone again, calm, intentional, every move like it had been rehearsed. "Carla," she said softly. On the other end, a voice replied instantly, professional, precise. "Yes, ma'am," standing by. The manager frowned. "Who's Carla? Another scammer in on this?" But the room was already shifting. "Begin internal log," she instructed. "Document every phrase spoken. Cross, reference with employee records. Time, stamp all hostile actions." A pause. Then Carla's voice. "Confirmed. Real-time log active. Corporate Ethics Board has eyes on this incident right now." The manager blinked. His smirk faltered. He scanned the room, noticing for the first time the number of phones raised, the red recording lights glowing like quiet warnings. "Don't play games," he barked. "This isn't how banking works." Her gaze held his. "Number. This is how accountability works." The security guard still hovered close. He shifted, suddenly less sure. Sir?" he asked the manager. "Do we detain her?" "Of course!" the manager snapped, louder now, volume replacing conviction. "She's a fraud!" But then another voice cut through, soft but steady. The young banker again. Her account exists. I saw the balance this morning. 7 billion. The words hung heavy. Conversations stuttered. Clients' eyes widened. One man muttered, 7 billion? The manager turned on the junior employee. Enough. You're done here. But it was too late. The silence in the lounge wasn't protecting him anymore, it was protecting her. She pressed the phone closer. Carla, escalate to Phase 2. Phase 2 confirmed. Carla's voice replied. Compliance files are unlocked. Branch performance under review. Manager's name flagged for discriminatory conduct. System access countdown. Active. The manager's face drained of color. What are you talking about? You can't. She cut him off. Voice firm. Calm. Surgical. I don't raise my voice. I don't make scenes. I build systems. And those systems are now dissecting every move you've made in the last 3 minutes. A hush deeper than any so far swept the room. Clients weren't whispering anymore, they were staring, phones steady, witnesses to a reversal they hadn't expected but had been waiting for. The guard's radio crackled. Update. Do not detain. Repeat. Do not detain. His brow furrowed. Sir, that came from Central Security. The manager stammered. That can't be right, that's not... But she was already leaning forward, eyes locked on him. Her voice, the sharp edge the silence had been waiting for. You thought my quiet was weakness. What you never realized is that it was strategy. And now, every second you spend speaking digs the hole deeper beneath your feet. Mel. For the first time that morning, the manager looked shaken. His lips parted, then closed again. His voice, once sharp, now cracked at the edges. You're bluffing. No system can... But he was cut off. The junior banker voice clearer now, spine stiffened by conviction, spoke again. She's not bluffing. Her name is in the top-tier account list. I saw it with my own eyes. The lounge shifted. Clients who had been spectators now leaned forward. A middle-aged woman set down her coffee cup. Are you saying she's really the owner? The junior banker nodded once. Her account balance is more than this entire branch handles in a quarter. She isn't a fraud. The manager spun toward him, fury overtaking fear. You're finished here, hand me your badge. But no one moved to enforce it. Even the guards looked uneasy. From the far side of the lounge, a young mother stood with her stroller. She raised her phone, recording openly now. This is discrimination, plain and simple. The manager's face flushed red. Stay out of this! But voices were rising. A man in a navy suit shook his head. Number, we won't. This isn't how you treat clients. Not anyone. Certainly not someone who built this place. The words carried weight. A murmur rolled across the room, louder than before. She sat at the center of it all, still calm, still anchored. Her silence had become gravity. Every eye, every lens, every breath in the room orbited her steadiness. She spoke again, low but deliberate. Carla, log the witnesses. Every word, every phone, every refusal to silence the truth. Logged, came the reply. Live documentation uploaded to the board. The manager's smirk collapsed into something else, panic. You think corporate cares about a stunt in one branch? They'll back me, they always do. Her gaze didn't waver. Not when 7 billion speaks louder than your prejudice. A gasp fluttered through the room. Clients exchanged glances. The number wasn't rumor anymore, it was confirmation. One of the guards lowered his hand from his holster, his voice hesitant but firm. Sir, with respect, I think we should stand down. This doesn't look right. The manager spun on him. You work for me. But the guard cut in. Number, we work for the institution. And right now, I'm starting to think she is the institution. The silence after that line was different. Not tense, not fearful. It was recognition. She looked around the room, her voice calm, her tone almost gentle. This isn't about a branch, it isn't about one account, it's about dignity, and today, it's on trial in this room. Phones stayed high. Clients nodded. The tide had turned. The manager's composure shattered like glass. His voice rose, not to command, but to cover fear. Don't be fooled. She's manipulating all of you. A dress, a fake card, and suddenly you think she owns the place? He jabbed a finger toward her, trembling now with rage. She's nothing but a con artist, a liar in costume. The words hit the room like shrapnel. Even those who doubted before recoiled. The young mother gasped, clutching her child closer. A man near the window muttered, "That's beyond unprofessional." The junior banker tried again, louder this time. Her name is in the system. I checked it. I verified it. The manager snapped, eyes wild. You're complicit. You want to lose your job too? But the banker didn't back down. He stepped forward, voice shaking but firm. Number, I want to keep my integrity. A low murmur of agreement rolled through the lounge. Phones rose higher. The tide was irreversible. The manager turned desperate. He grabbed the landline, his hand slipping on the receiver. Security escalation. Fraudulent activity. Possible organized crime. Send additional units now. Oh. The line crackled with static. Every client heard the words. The black woman in the orange dress finally tilted her head, eyes steady, her voice cutting through the chaos like steel. You just escalated a false report. That's a federal offense. The manager slammed the receiver down, pretending not to hear. His words tumbled out fast, frantic. Don't listen to her. People like this walk in, dressed down, pretending to be what they're not. That money? Probably stolen. That name? Fake. The silence after was heavy, suffocating, and then another witness stepped forward. A young concierge intern, previously silent at the back, cleared her throat. I saw her name this morning too. VIP tier. Executive clearance. It's real. All eyes turned. The room buzzed with electricity. The manager's face twisted. You're finished here. Out. But the intern didn't move. Instead, she pulled a folded printout from her pocket today's guest list, her handwriting circling the name. She held it up for all to see. Her reservation wasn't fake. It was priority. Gasps rippled. The proof was undeniable. The manager's voice cracked. No, this is staged. You're all being played. His words didn't land anymore. They fell flat, swallowed by the shifting weight of the room. The woman in orange leaned forward, her tone soft but commanding. Carla, elevate to Phase 3. Phase 3 confirmed, came the calm reply. Compliance review active, branch manager flagged, central board receiving live feed. The manager froze, his jaw slackened, his eyes darted between the glowing phones, the steady stares, the witnesses who would no longer be silent. And then she said it 7 words that cut deeper than anything so far. You mistook silence for surrender. It isn't. The room hummed with power. Not hers alone, but collective. The audience, the witnesses, the truth itself. And though the manager still stood, barking orders into the void, everyone in the lounge knew it. The reckoning had already begun. The doors burst open again. 2 more guards strode in, heavier steps, batons at their sides. The manager waved them forward like reinforcements on a battlefield. There she is. Detain her. Search her bag. If she resists, cuff her. Gasps rippled through the lounge. A woman by the window whispered, Cuff her? For what? The lead guard reached for her purse resting on the chair beside her. He yanked it up, dumping its contents onto the polished floor. A slim wallet, a pen, the tablet charger, nothing more. The items scattered like discarded evidence. Frauds always travel light, the manager sneered. His voice cracked, but he forced the words out anyway. Search her tablet, see what she's hiding. One of the guards pressed the tablet's power button. The screen lit with her name, bold at the top of an executive dashboard. But before he could read further, she spoke. Every keystroke you touch is being logged. You just made yourself part of the record. The guard froze, unsure, eyes flicking to the manager for direction. The manager snarled. Ignore her. She's bluffing. Handcuff her now. The second guard stepped forward, cuffs glinting in the light. He reached for her wrist. The entire lounge seemed to inhale at once, but she didn't move away. She leaned in, voice low, sharp enough to slice through marble. Lay a finger on me, and your badge dies before you leave this room. The words weren't shouted. They didn't need to be. They carried the certainty of someone who had already pulled the trigger on consequences. The guard's hand hovered, trembling. His partner muttered, Sir, maybe we should slow down. The manager erupted. Do it. She's a thief. A criminal in a dress. This is my branch. N. That was the moment the final thread snapped. The lounge didn't just murmur, it roared. A man at the espresso bar slammed his cup down. Enough. She hasn't raised her voice once. You've insulted her, grabbed her things, called her a thief. This isn't banking, it's abuse. Phones lifted higher. Dozens of red lights now glowed across the room. A young woman near the entrance shouted, We're all witnesses. Keep talking, manager. Dig your grave. The manager's face flushed scarlet. He jabbed a finger at the crowd. You're being manipulated. This is a scam. But the crowd no longer believed him. Their eyes had already shifted to her. She rose slowly, her burnt orange dress catching the morning light. Not flashy, not grand, but undeniable. She stood anchored, taller now than the room around her. Her voice was steady, unshaken. You threw my tablet. You stole my purse. You threatened my dignity in front of witnesses. And yet I'm still standing here. Ask yourself, why do you think that is? The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was charged, like the pause before lightning strikes. Even the guards hesitated, their cuffs hanging useless at their sides. And in that silence, everyone in the lounge realized something the manager still hadn't. The power had already shifted. The room was no longer his. Every eye, every phone, every breath leaned toward her. The manager barked again, voice raw. Why are you still standing there? Restrain her. But the guards didn't move. Their hesitation was louder than any command. She reached down, gathered the scattered items from the floor with a calm grace, and placed them neatly back into her purse. Then she straightened, her gaze sweeping the lounge. You've called me a fraud, a thief, an imposter. Her voice carried, low but undeniable. And you've humiliated me in front of every client here. She let the words hang, heavy. The manager smirked, thinking she was building toward a plea. Then she turned, her eyes sharp as glass. But you made one mistake. You forgot to ask who I am. Gasps fluttered. Phones shifted closer. The manager scoffed, shaking his head. Another bluff. She tapped her tablet once. The screen lit, mirrored across the lounge's digital display board usually reserved for market updates. Instead, a profile appeared. Her name, her title, her photograph. Vanessa Clark, Chief Executive Officer, Summit Enterprises, parent company of Summit Trust Bank. The lounge erupted. A collective gasp surged like a wave breaking against stone. Clients stood. Some clapped. Others muttered, I knew it. The guards froze, staring at the screen as if it were scripture. The junior banker's eyes widened, relief flooding his face. I told you, he whispered. The manager stumbled back a step, color draining from his face. No, this is fake. She hacked the system. This is... But the corporate seal in the corner of the display flickered, animated, verified. No hack, no doubt. She closed the tablet and placed it flat on the table, her voice razor sharp. You didn't just insult a client, you insulted the CEO of the institution that signs your paychecks. The silence after was deafening. Even the marble floors seemed to vibrate with the weight of it. The manager stammered, his words crumbling. You set us up. Her eyes didn't waver. Number I tested you. And you failed. A man near the espresso bar clapped once. Then again. The sound spread until the whole lounge was filled with applause. Not loud, not mocking, but steady, like a verdict delivered by the people themselves. The manager's shoulders slumped, his voice cracked. You can't just... But she stepped closer, her burnt orange dress aflame in the cold, sterile lounge. I don't need to shout. I don't need to threaten. I don't even need to raise a hand, because the truth already stripped you of your authority. Her gaze sliced through him, final, absolute. And now, the only question left is whether you'll walk out or be escorted out of the bank you no longer represent. The applause grew louder, echoing off glass and marble, drowning whatever protest the manager still clung to. The reveal was complete, the power undeniable. The applause faded into a tense silence. All eyes locked on her, waiting not for defense, not for explanation, but for judgment. The manager's chest heaved, sweat forming at his temples. This isn't official. You can't fire staff in front of clients. Her voice cut through his denial like a blade. Watch me. She tapped her tablet again. The screen flickered, pulling up the branch roster. Names, positions, access levels. The manager's was at the top. Carla, she said evenly. Terminate branch manager Greg Walters. Effective immediately, revoke all system access. Confirmed, came Carla's calm voice through the speaker. System lock engaged. ID 4472 access revoked. At that exact moment, the manager's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out with shaking hands. The screen was red. Access denied. He tried his badge against the door panel behind the desk. It blinked scarlet, then dead. Gasps filled the room. A client near the window whispered, "It's real. She just erased him." The manager's face turned pale, almost translucent. You can't. She didn't flinch. And yet I just did. Then she raised her eyes to the two senior tellers who had backed him earlier, the ones who sneered when she walked in. Lauren Hayes, Kevin Patel, complicit in misconduct. Carla, terminate both. Confirmed. IDs 3,385 and 4,429 revoked. Across the lounge, both employees' monitors went black. Their badges flashed red. Kevin dropped his headset with a clang. Lauren staggered back, whispering, "This can't be happening." But it was. It was happening live, in front of every client, every phone recording. The junior banker stepped forward, voice steady now. "Ma'am, what about the others who ignored the policy, the ones who stayed silent?" Her eyes swept the room. For a moment, the weight of her gaze pressed on every staff member who had looked away. "Silence is complicity," she said. "But truth is choice. Those who stood against injustice today will remain. Those who didn't review pending." Murmurs erupted. A client muttered, "That's justice." Another whispered, "Not revenge. Accountability." The guards lowered their batons. One even nodded, as if relieved to see the scales corrected. She stepped forward, each word measured. Absolute. "You called me a con artist in the bank I built. You tried to erase me in front of witnesses. And now, the erasure is yours. Permanent." And from her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The finality in her tone struck harder than any shout. The manager sank into a chair, staring at his dead phone, his useless badge, his empire gone in seconds. And at the center of the room, she stood taller than ever. Not just a client, not just an executive, but the embodiment of power, wielded with precision. The verdict had been delivered. The silence that followed was unlike any before. Not tense, not expectant, this was silence drenched in shock. The manager sat slumped in his chair, his badge blinking useless red. Lauren covered her mouth, whispering to no one, "My career, gone." Kevin stared at his dark monitor, knuckles white around the edge of the desk. But it wasn't just the fired staff who shook. The entire branch quivered under the revelation. Clerks who had stayed quiet looked around nervously, wondering if silence would be judged next. One tried to log into her terminal, only to find it frozen with a flashing message. "Review pending." Clients murmured in waves, some with awe, some with indignation. "7 billion, one whispered. "She really owns the bank," another said, phone camera still recording. A man in a tailored suit muttered, "If she runs the institution, what happens to this branch?" The junior banker stood taller than before. Though young, his voice carried with a weight that wasn't there minutes earlier. "She just saved us," he said. "This branch needed accountability." A woman near the window shook her head. She didn't save it. She dismantled it. The crowd wasn't uniform in its reaction. Some clapped quietly, moved by the justice they'd witnessed. Others frowned, unsettled by the ruthlessness of power revealed. The guards exchanged glances. One whispered, "What do we do now?" The other replied, "Nothing. She's the chain of command now." Vanessa, still standing, calm, centered, let her eyes scan the room. She saw the fear in staff, the awe in clients, the disbelief on faces that once doubted her. "You think today was chaos?" she said evenly. "But this is order, not built on lies, not on prejudice, on truth. This branch forgot what dignity means. Today was a reminder." Her words didn't echo like a shout. They landed like stones in water, rippling outward, unavoidable. Lauren finally broke, her voice trembling. "Please, please don't ruin us. We have families." Vanessa's gaze was steady, not cruel, but unrelenting. "You ruined yourselves when you chose contempt over integrity, when you mocked clients instead of serving them. Families don't erase responsibility." The weight of her words pressed the air flat. Phones kept rolling. This wasn't just a moment inside one bank lounge, it was a spectacle that would travel far beyond its walls. Every witness knew it. Every staff member felt it. A man near the espresso bar whispered, "This is going viral tonight." His companion nodded. It already island. And still, the woman in the burnt orange dress stood anchored. She hadn't raised her voice once. Yet the entire branch was unraveling around her. The center of gravity shifted beyond recovery. This wasn't just fallout, it was collapse. And she was the architect of both. The lounge felt colder now, as if the marble itself had absorbed the weight of what just happened. Phones were still raised. clients whispering, staff trembling, but all eyes stayed fixed on her. Vanessa placed the tablet back on the table. The gesture was small but final. Her voice followed, calm as ever. "Carla, begin closure protocols." "Confirmed," came the reply. "Specify targets." Her gaze swept across the room, locking on the pale faces of the terminated staff. Greg Walters, branch manager. Lauren Hayes, senior teller. Kevin Patel, compliance officer. Close all employee accounts, cancel corporate cards, effective immediately. The tablet pinged 3 times, one after another, red notifications flashing like verdicts. Lauren gasped, fumbling for her phone. The banking app she'd used for years blinked and died. Account suspended. Kevin tried his laptop. Locked. Greg slammed his fist on the desk, but the system didn't budge. His name was gone, deleted like it had never existed. Murmurs rippled through the lounge. "She didn't just fire them," one client whispered. "She erased them. Another finished." Vanessa wasn't done. She turned to the display board, her reflection framed against the corporate seal. "Carla, flag this branch for audit. All contracts under Greg Walters' tenure frozen. Vendor deals, client agreements, discretionary loans. Effective immediately." The board updated in real time. Rows of contracts turned red. Whole portfolios vanished from the active list. Gasps deepened. A man in a navy suit hissed under his breath, "That's millions. Gone." Vanessa's eyes didn't flicker. That's millions recovered from corruption. The guards shifted uneasily, no longer protectors of the manager but silent witnesses to justice. She took one step forward, her burnt orange dress glowing against the sterile white light. Her words sliced clean. "You called me a fraud. You treated me like a trespasser. But fraud is stealing trust. Fraud is mocking clients while pocketing their money. Fraud is thinking you are untouchable. And today, fraud was removed from this branch." Greg finally broke. His voice cracked into a plea. "You can't just destroy careers in front of everyone." Her reply was surgical. "I didn't destroy them. You did. I just pressed enter." A stunned hush fell again. Even the clients who had doubted her now stared with a kind of reverence fear mixed with respect. The young banker, the first to speak up, whispered to the client beside him, "This isn't punishment, it's precedent." And that was exactly what it was. With a single command, she had cut out the rot, erased the corruption, and left behind an institution cleansed in real time. No appeals, no delays. Justice, immediate and final. The fallen staff sat hollow, stripped of access, stripped of identity within the bank they thought protected them. And Vanessa Clark stood taller than all of it, not shouting, not gloating, just delivering the final strike with quiet precision. The punishment was complete. The branch was silent now, not from order but from awe. Screens still glowed red with revoked access. Phones still recorded, but no one spoke above a whisper. Vanessa closed her tablet, sliding it into her purse with the same calm precision she'd carried all morning. She looked around the lounge at the clients, at the trembling staff who remained, at the guards who no longer served their former boss. "This branch thought silence would protect misconduct," she said evenly. "But silence only shields the guilty. Today, silence broke." Her words settled over the room like a final judgment. Greg slumped lower in his chair, his badge dark, his phone useless. Lauren's eyes were glassy with disbelief. Kevin buried his face in his hands. They were still physically present, but already erased from the world they once ruled. Vanessa turned her attention to the clients. Some held their phones high, still streaming. Others lowered them, caught between shock and admiration. "You witnessed it," she continued. "Not in secret, not behind closed doors. You saw how prejudice poisons dignity, and you saw what happens when truth answers back." A man in the corner nodded slowly. "Without shouting," he murmured. "Without shouting," she echoed, "because power doesn't scream. It speaks once, and the world listens." The young banker stepped forward, his voice steady now. "Ma'am, what happens next?" Her eyes softened for the first time. "Rebuilding. With those who remember integrity matters more than appearances. With those who serve, not mock." The applause began hesitantly. One pair of hands, then another. Soon the lounge was filled with it, not thunderous, but resolute, a chorus of agreement. Vanessa gave a single nod, then turned toward the exit. Each step of her heels struck the marble like punctuation marks to the verdict she had delivered. At the door, she paused. Her final words cut clean, meant for everyone present and for every screen already broadcasting beyond those walls. Dignity doesn't need volume. Justice doesn't wait for permission. And today, both stood here. Remember that the next time you think silence means surrender. Oh, she walked out, the burnt orange of her dress catching the morning light like a flame refusing to die. The cameras followed her until the glass doors closed. Inside, the bank she once built sat stunned, stripped, and forever changed. Outside, justice had already gone viral.